Hey, Christine. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm excited to be here too. Thank you.
So, before we dive into the wonderful world of outdoor media, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do for Outfront.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Christine Rose. I am our regional senior marketing director here at Outfront. In my role, I spearhead in the development and execution of marketing strategies aimed at bolstering company and regional revenue across 10 markets in the West region. So I collaborate closely with our clients from local to national levels on various business initiatives. I also lead and mentor our marketing teams throughout these regions, really focusing on fostering a unified and higher performing culture through communication, education, and just sharing the best practices.
Well, I think you have a job that a lot of our marketing directors who are listening are probably very jealous of. It sounds like a lot of fun.
It
Uh,
is.
So we use outdoor media here at GradCom for a lot of our media placements. So you do billboards and buses and all sorts of great design work and placements for colleges across California. And it's probably one of our most common requests from colleges is they love to see themselves out in the world. And so I know everybody's been focusing on digital media for so long, but I really feel there's just been this huge resurgence in outdoor media. I don't know if you're seeing that in other industries or if that's just for higher education.
Definitely across the board. I know the pandemic. It's a little like we were few years, 4 years now, right past the pandemic, but people are still craving those in real life experiences. People, I think one of the big words that came out of the pandemic was digital fatigue. We spent so much time on our devices, on our computers, that people want to be outside, and that's really where out of home media has its strengths.
Yeah, that's funny because when we were doing when the pandemic hit, I remember thinking like, "Oh my gosh, we have all these billboards booked. We better call and be like, we don't want to pay to put these billboards up because everybody's quarantined." And we did. We started shifting media into digital, and now it's really kind of come full circle where people are like, "God, I'm on my phone all the time." They want to be in other places. They want to be seen differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say, even during the pandemic, when yes, people were told to stay inside, what we saw was the change of like the consumer journey, right? So, with the high impact, maybe in LA, you think about Sunset Boulevard during the pandemic. The high impact board was the board next to Ralph's or next to Stater Brothers, right? Because that's where people's kind of daily journeys change to. So, I think that's something that's really powerful about out of home media. It really does kind of align with what consumers are doing and where they're adapting to.
Why do you think people love seeing their ads so much in out of home? Like, what is it?
Well, personally, I love out of home media because it's tangible, real life impact. It's big, it's bold, and unmissable. And I think consumers resonate with these aspects as well. They really appreciate engaging with a visual medium that adds value to their everyday experiences. So it's not just digitally, but physically, really enhancing the daily lives with compelling visual stories. And I think you mentioned it early on. There's one thing that's exciting about a brand, right? When you just see your brand on this big, bold piece of media, it just feels like, we like to call it like a mama, I made it moment, right? Like it just feels really good.
I think that's so true, especially for community colleges, because it is that moment. They're like, oh my gosh, I saw the billboard down the street. Or I just had one college just like, our president drives on, I think it was Interstate 80 every day. We have to have the
Hmm.
billboard that he can see every day on his way into
Yes,
work.
absolutely.
So, besides billboards, what are some other examples of out of home? What else do you do for clients? Where else do you place media?
So out front, we're really big on being a media company. So we do have, of course, your standard billboards, bulletin inventory, but also on the digital front. Just as we were talking about, digital expansion is definitely something very big. We are converting a lot of our units to digital inventory to have that flexible and dynamic capabilities. But it also transit ads and street furnitures as well. So we really do have an opportunity for brands to really mix it up, and mix it up in a way that matches the daily travel patterns of any target audience, right? If you think about maybe yourself or myself, like to get to work, I'm on a freeway, but I'm also on local surface streets. So that's where our Outfront's media really comes into play in a lot of strengths, because it is a diversified portfolio from your traditional billboards to the transit media, because we know that we move so differently, right? So you get that eye level opportunity to engage with the bus ad, but you also get that high impact, high dwell time on a freeway as well, with, like, let's say, a digital bulletin as well.
How do you go about selecting the right placements and the right tactics? I know this can be an expensive type of media to purchase, so paying attention to placement's really important. What strategies or recommendations do you have?
Yeah. So first, I would love to just dive into the misconception. Out of home is really not that expensive. When
Okay.
you look at the CPMs across the board on different medias, out of home is typically the lower cost one when it comes to the CPM value, because of the high impressions that out of home could really reach. But to answer your question, when selecting locations, we love to use data-driven insights. Right. I think 90% of marketers are using data and audience targeting when it comes to any of their marketing strategies. So we do that just as much at Outfront and then the out of home landscape. So using that data-driven insights and expert advice to really ensure ads are placed where they will reach the intended demographic or audience. So I think it's a good job. It's a good combination of marrying the data and audience insights that we have available, right, to make sure that we're targeting when and where it matters most for that brand, but also leveraging our media advisors within our company, right? They know the markets really well, and they could tell you what assets are going to be the best assets from a visible standpoint. And of course, traditionally with out of home advertising, it's just locations right near the proximity to relevant locations, like like colleges, maybe competitor colleges, maybe an expo conference, can be particularly effective as well. So I would say it's a few things, right? It's one, mixing up the inventory to make sure that you're using a diverse portfolio of inventory, leveraging the data and insights, and leaning into experts in the out of home industry. And then, of course, the proximity play as well.
Great. And I want to ask you a little bit more about audience insights, but I want to follow up with you said about CPM because I had never thought about it this way. I think that we think outdoor media is expensive because the price point is usually high to get into. But when you do look at it based on how many people are going to see your ad, your cost per impression is really low, right? I mean, a million people could drive by and you're paying cents
Yes.
per penny for everybody to see your ad. It's just that so many eyes are on it. It makes that price point a little bit higher than maybe social media or digital. So that's an interesting way to evaluate how you're spending your money.
Yes, absolutely.
So, audience insights, I love this idea because I don't think a lot of our clients have thought to ask their outfront providers to give them that information. What type of insights do you provide when booking outdoor media? What type of audience, like, what do you know about the audience, and what could you tell people when they're looking to make a purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. So Outfront is powered by audiences. So we like to call it PBA, which is our data-driven approach to uniting audiences with out of home to really enhance the value of both location and creativity. So essentially we use this audience-based planning approach. And we have a proprietary DMP, which we call Smart Scout. And then we also lean into other industry leaders such as Geopath and Street Metrics to really develop strategic and effective ad campaigns. So essentially, our platform, it discovers and measures target audiences in the physical world by leveraging aggregated, anonymized, which is of course important, sources of location data to really attribute estimated impression counts, dwell time, and audience segmentation for Outfront inventory. So this really helps us fuel marketers and brands alike to efficiently plan and spend campaign budgets to target key audiences that align with the traffic trends in your desired markets. Our platform SmartSky has over 8,000 unique audiences. So thinking on the education college landscape, we could target people like interested in going to college, about to graduate high school, interested in specific subjects. So it's a wide range of audiences that we can really get granular with out of home. I like to say that with an out of home now, with advancements of technology, we can really mirror how people are buying digital, right? Like people know with digital, you can target quite a bit on the audience scale. We could do that just as much on the out of home side.
So that's fascinating. So I could say something like, okay, we have this media campaign going, and we really want to target high school students. So we want them to see ads about our College Promise program, which gives free tuition
Mhm.
to incoming high school students. And so we'd be able to tell an Outfront provider like Outfront, hey, we want our ads to be seen by high school students, and you can use your software to then give us locations where what like that high school students congregate or drive by. Wow.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We love that, right? Like if a brand is not giving us their target audience, we'll ask. We want to know who you guys are trying to target again, so we can really leverage that and give you the best locations possible, and then possibly even kind of feel what the best creative messaging would be as well. Because there's a great synergy. We like to talk about the marriage of art and science, right? Making sure that we have both to have a really successful campaign.
Well, great. And I want to ask you questions about creative, but
Okay.
before we dive into design, I want to take a quick break and just talk a little bit about our sponsor. So we'll be right back. How do higher education decision makers find the right solution when technology evolves at light speed? Well, we usually start with our network. EdTech Connect is the network that's democratizing the higher ed technology conversation. EdTech Connect is free, so anyone with a .edu email address can sign up and list the software and services they use in their role at their school. Once you're in, you can find out what solutions similar schools are doing all over the country. Whether you're looking to find the hot new AI tool, or maybe learn options you have to upgrade your campus search engine, or even get to your short list of marketing solution vendors, EdTech Connect is the place to go. So visit edtechconnect.com and set up your free profile to get a pulse for what's happening with higher ed technology today. All right, Christine. So we're back. So we were talking about audience segmentation, kind of the tactical placement of your Outfront media, and you had mentioned marrying it with design, which is
Yes.
super important. And I can't tell you, like, you work with marketers or colleges who've never done a lot of marketing before, and they want to put like an entire like paragraph onto a billboard or like a QR
Yes.
code on a bus. Like, no, people aren't supposed to be on their phones scanning QR codes on
Yes.
buses. So what design tips do you have? What have you seen work really well?
So I always like to start this conversation with a quote that our national creative director says, and it's 100% made up, but he always says 100% of boring ads don't matter. And I think that's really, really important, right? Like if you are not capturing the attention, if you are not enticing some kind of emotion, it's going to be forgettable. So 100% of boring ads don't matter is something that we really stay true to out front. And in fact, 70% of an ad's effectiveness stems from the creative. So the creative is truly, truly important. And when it comes to out of home, it's really important to keep design simple and focus on a single idea. As you mentioned, we can't put too much on a given billboard because someone's driving by, or we just don't want, and it's important to keep it simple. So we always recommend that you should limit both text and design elements to avoid confusing viewers. A powerful image alone can really captivate your audience. It's also important to consider the physical environment of your ads. Using contextual relevance to enhance engagement is really awesome. And then being memorable and telling a story visually is key to standing out as well. I think contextually relevant is something that we're seeing quite a bit in the out of home industry because no other media can really quite do that. So again, if it's being next to a high school or being next to a education conference, you can say like, hey, conference goers, something along those lines to really capture their attention. I think is extremely powerful when it comes to out of home. But really, of course, simple is key. A lot of times you don't need to put a website, you don't need to put a phone number because people know that once they see the logo or they see or a logo or just the brand's name, they know to go to Google and they'll find you pretty quickly. We're
Yeah.
also seeing QR codes being implemented quite a bit on like our street level inventory.
Yeah, street level makes perfect sense, right? That's a great way to scan. I'm just like on the buses, I'm like, I don't know if we really want our drivers out scanning your bus. I love that the contextual design we did years ago. I think one of the first billboards I ever designed and booked was for a college I used to work for, and we booked this billboard right next to a beach, and the college campus was just 10 minutes from the beach. So the billboard actually said from beach to biology in 10 minutes and then had the big logo. And we had like Google searches beach to biology Miracosta like was like our top like feeder search into the website for like 2 weeks after this billboard ran, and it was because it had to do with the location, and it was telling people like you could be at the beach and then you come take a class in 10 minutes, you can have both your fun life and your school life if you choose this college in your neighborhood. So I think that's a great example of it. And I've also seen Coachella, like big music festivals, there's billboards on the way into the festival that can play around with people going to the festival and what that's like for them.
Yeah, absolutely. One, I love that example. It's really fun, right? And I think that's also, like you said, you saw your Google searches go quite up. You saw that search for that specific tagline go up. We also see people go to social when the campaign is relevant and excites them and kind of evokes again some type of emotion. So we've coined this term where we call it hashtag SOOH, which is social out of home, because we see that happen very organically. Where if the creative is funny, if it's just like a good, really good, great creative in the right location, people will pull out their phones and take a photo with it and post it to their social channels, which is a great earned media opportunity for brands. And we see brands leverage that in a lot of ways. One, with influencers, like having the influencer go out there, take a photo, but even doing like giveaways too, like go find our billboard, take a photo in front of it, and we'll give you XYZ. So there's a lot of unique ways that brands are utilizing out of home as well.
That's a great idea with the giveaways. I hadn't even thought
Mhm.
about that. That's something that I think students would love.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, with this billboard that we did, this beach to biology billboard, we used a stock photo of a surfer. He was riding the nose of the board. He was hanging 10, and he saw the billboard. It turns out he was a San Diego resident and took his
Oh,
picture in front of it, and then called the college and asked when the billboard came down if he could have the vinyl. And I think I might have booked it through you guys. I mean, this was a long time ago, and you guys gave us the vinyl, and he like hung it in his garage, like a 20-foot
yeah, they're
like
massive.
vinyl image of the server. But he did. He posted it on social media, and we got all this other attention, which was so fantastic.
That is so fun. I wish I like was more aware of that campaign because that's really a fun one.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me think about something else too, is that, and not to derail us too much, but sustainability, right? That's really important. And at Outfront, we recycle 100% of our vinyls. So just as you mentioned, sometimes there's fans that want their vinyls, but we work with a company called Rare Form, and they repurpose vinyls into consumer products. So something that could be really fun for education brands or colleges is they could take down their vinyls and repurpose it into backpacks for new oncoming students as well. So right, that really ties into which is really important, I think, for people across the board, is that sustainability, that eco-friendly as well. So I think that's something that's always like a unique thing to kind of keep the life of your billboard or your out-of-home campaign just live on forever.
That is, I had no idea you did that. Look, I've been working with you guys for years, but I didn't know that you're repurposing vinyls. And can a client ask? Can they be like, hey, we want to repurpose our vinyl. We want to purchase whatever's being made with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, okay, you're gonna have to send me more information on that.
I will.
Because
I
I
will.
definitely, I want that billboard we just booked on the 84, the college president. I want to repurpose, I want to repurpose it
It'd
for
be
him.
so fun. Yeah, it'd be so
I
fun.
make him like 1,000 backpacks or a bunch of
Yeah,
shopping bags or
it would be a
something.
lot. Yeah.
That's great. So I love these design tips. So it's tell a story, keep it simple, try to make it relevant to the location or to the audience. Anything else that you've seen really stand out or work well, or are there any things people shouldn't do?
I think shouldn't do is definitely not, don't put too much, right? Just again, leaning back into that, keeping it simple and focused on a single idea. And then I would just say just to be open, right? Um, to be open to other people's like perspectives on the design work. Like we do have we call them Outfront Studios, which essentially is an in-house creative agency. And they focused on one creating really comprehensive out of home campaigns, but out of home is like what they do and they specialize in out of home. So I think brands could just be open to working with whether they may not need it. There's a lot of people that have creative in-house of their own, but being open to just connecting with our team to make sure that it is going to be the most effective for out of home, because we want your campaign to work, right? Like we know out of home it'll be the right location, it's the right medium for your brand, but we need to also nail the creative. So I would just say also being open to getting that feedback from other potential designers as well.
We do a lot of billboard design, and I'm going to put in the show notes a link to take a look at some billboards that we've done for clients. But one set of billboards we just won a National Davy Award for, and it used extensions. And so we had like a student training to be a chef, and the extension was the fire coming off what he was cooking.
Amazing.
And then we had somebody, yeah, training to be a biologist, and she's looking through a microscope that's built off of the billboard. So whenever I bring up extensions to new clients, a lot of them have never played around with that. So could you explain like what is an extension, and how do you design for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And extensions are so much fun. Again, I think that's something that you could only really be done in the out of home industry. So extensions are kind of what it sounds like. It's an extension where it extends beyond the billboard. So kind of creating it a little bit bigger, more of a standout way to kind of get your ad out there. And we design it very similar to standard billboards, of course, but we just make sure that we're aligning whatever that creative idea is and making sure that it's executable as well. So we have extensions that kind of just go off the top of the billboard, but we also have 3D ones, 2D ones. Like it's a really incredible stuff that we could do with our billboards. Like we love to say, come with us with any idea and like we'll figure it out. Like we've seen a lot of unique executions. There's one on the streets right now for a new movie for the new Garfield movie. And it looks like a giant plush Garfield. His eyes even move. So it's just like really unique. It's very, very cool. And just like we're never afraid to go out of the box, right, with these ideas. So it is a little bit more designing differently, but I think it's still very simple and it can be done.
I wish I would have asked you because we had one with a drone. And the client's like, "Can you make it spin?" And I'm like, "No, but maybe we could have made it spin."
Yeah, we could. I feel like our answer is always like, we'll try, we'll see what we can do. And
Yeah.
one of the great things is we have, like, at least speaking for Los Angeles, actually, I think all of our markets across the country, but sometimes our clients want to test something before it goes out in the street. So we will put up the billboard in our yard to make sure that everything is working properly before it actually hits the street. So that's always an option as well, because just like you guys, we want it to look its best before it hits the street for consumers.
That's really great. That's great to know. Okay, well, I'm gonna go back to him and be like, "Okay, the drone can spin next time."
Yeah,
Let's figure it
it can.
out.
Yeah.
I've also seen, I was driving up California on a big trip. I went up to Yosemite from San Diego. So for those people listening who aren't from California, it's like a 7, 8 hour drive for us to get up to Yosemite. And there are so many billboards on the way. And being a marketer, I paid attention to a lot of them. And I noticed some of them actually built the extension, like actually like almost doubled the size of the billboard. So it wasn't even just a cutout. It was just like, it just made the billboard even huger. And I was like, wow, like people are getting really creative with that extra space. And it was fun to see some of the things that people were doing as we were driving around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the ideas that our clients come with. Of course, we try to share our ideas too, but sometimes the best ideas come from our clients and just being very creative, like you said.
Yeah, keep your eye out, and this
Yeah.
is what I'm going to tell people listening though, because I'm dealing with this morning. We have been waiting for purchasing to give us a purchase order for like 8 weeks, and now we're in this mad rush because it's May and they want us to market for summer and they want a billboard. Like to be creative, especially on something this large, takes time. So put some time aside to think about creativity so you're not just slapping a message together, because there are so many cool things you can do to capture people's attention.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like the more unique, the more creative, that's when we talked about it. You see it on social, you see it on press, you kind of get all that earned media. So the time invested is worth it.
So you gave some examples earlier about integrating digital into a campaign kind of organically, having, a contest or taking pictures. But are there any other ways that you can integrate digital marketing into your out-of-home strategy?
Yeah, so absolutely. Out of home is an excellent primer for digital engagement. It really boosts online actions such as searches, social media interactions. There's actually research from ComScore that shows per advertising dollar spent, out of home drives at least twice the digital activation of any other ad channel. So, really understanding this, your digital strategy should complement and enhance your out of home campaigns, target the same audiences with timely and dynamic content. Um, People are just more likely going to engage with an ad on digital after seeing it on out of home first, right? We think about that frequency and that consumer journey. So if we're hitting people in different buckets of media, it's more likely going to increase your engagement across the board. And on the digital, we talked about when it comes to the really big creative ideas, yes, it takes a little bit of time, but digital out of home could be executed just as quickly as any other digital media. Um, because of that just kind of instant post it, get it live. So that mirroring with standard digital and digital out of home is happening more and more as time goes on.
Interesting. So I I think this is what people struggle with when it comes to digital versus outdoor. Like if they don't have enough to do all of it, what I hear is how do you measure success? Like with digital media, you are told like this many people clicked on your ads or da, da, da. How do you measure success with out of home marketing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. One, brands can kind of do this a little bit on their own, right? Naturally, if your out-of-home campaign goes up, start to track your like website visits, let's say, to see if you see an uplift. But out front, we use various attribution methods to really understand a campaign's impact and align it with your goal. So these things include footfall tracking, so seeing if people maybe actually went to your college or university, website visitation, brand lift surveys, tune in metrics, and app downloads. So we actually have a recent example for a college out of San Jose, Deonza College. They did a 12-week bus advertising campaign in the San Francisco market, San Jose market, to promote fall registration. And they saw a substantial increase in website engagement, where those exposed to the ads were 85% more likely to visit the college website, and around 60% of those visited the homepage or apply register page within 3 exposures of the ad. So this kind of data and opportunity to measure out of home really underscores the significant impact of well-placed out of home advertising can have, again, on driving that online engagement and website traffic. When it comes to measuring and attribution, it's very simple. It's a classic exposed versus not exposed group. So we basically will look at people who were exposed to out of home and what were their secondary actions, and then people who were not, and if they did any action, and then we do that comparison.
So how do you know if they're exposed? Do you do a survey or how are you tracking that?
It depends what we're measuring, but a lot of times it is survey based. So like if we are tracking someone website visitation or a brand lift, it is a survey. So we're sending that survey to both groups of people. And usually it is a geofence or virtual parameter around that out of home asset as well. So we're making sure that they fall within, and not a radius, right? Because a radius doesn't work, because then we're capturing people behind the billboard and then we know they didn't see it. So we do
Okay.
what's called like a view shed. So it's only capturing people that fall within that virtual view shed. So they had that opportunity to see the billboard. We serve them a survey of some sort, and then we're able to do that comparison of those people who were nearby but didn't fall in that view shed.
So what's the term again? I've never heard this. View shed?
Yes, view shed. Yes.
Like a shed, like an actual, like you're going into grandpa's shed with like
Yeah, I mean, it's more kind of like
tools.
it's like
Yeah,
a B view shed. So making sure, like, if this is like the pole, making sure, that you're only capturing people that have the opportunity to see the billboard. Because like a radius wouldn't be accurate, right? Because if you're on the
right.
side behind the billboard, you're capturing people that may not have actually seen it. So this helps us be more accurate in our reporting.
So can you do this view shed and then see if these people who came into this area visited the campus?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's what we call footfall tracking. So we can track if people actually saw the out of home and then went into your college, or maybe
great.
it's a competitor college that you want to track. I don't know, but
Yeah,
we can track visitations.
that's really fascinating because you can do that with geofencing ads. You could say, oh, we
Mhm.
geofence this location and then we're going to see if they come to the college later. But we can do that now with out of home as well. So that's a great
Yes.
way to show interest. Like, hey, this caught somebody's interest and they came to the campus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, I've learned so much. So I've learned two things from you today. I've learned view shed and I've learned that we could take our vinyls and make backpacks for college presidents.
Yes, you can.
So
That's a good
these are
one.
two new things I'm going to be incorporating into my campaign. So our rep Wendy, yeah, I'm sure she'll be listening to this later. But Wendy, Christine has opened our eyes to some new and exciting things that we can be doing to help our clients out. That's really a great way to show success. Now it's always really really hard to show attribution, and I get pounded on this all the time. It's like, well, how do you know it was the ad? Da, da, da. And I think that's where the surveys are really important because then you're actually asking people, do you recall seeing this ad? And what action did you take afterwards? So, for those of you really looking for attribution, the viewshed isn't going to give you that, but a survey will. A survey can tell you, hey, these people saw my bus ad, they saw my billboard ad, and they took action because of it. So, it's great
Yes.
to have both things going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And what about fatigue? This is a question I'm asked a lot by my clients is how often should you be changing out your messaging or your locations? I see sometimes people wanting to buy a location for a year, and then other times, clients want to switch it up every 4 weeks. Are there any really good guidelines or studies that you've done?
Yeah, so that one I hate to use the it depends answer, but I think it truly does depend on your campaign goals, your audience engagement patterns. Like you said, did you buy it out of 4 weeks, or did you buy it for the full year? Because obviously, I think 4 weeks you're fine. You don't have to change your creative messaging. But if you do have a year-long campaign, you really should keep your messaging fresh and relevant, to maintain interest and maximize that impact, right? Because when you put up your billboard in a singular location, you're going to get a lot of the same audience, but then you're also going to get new people as well. So to keep the people that are kind of frequently your board on a daily basis, you want to keep it fresh, and relevant too. Like again, like we were talking earlier about that contextual relevancy as well. So if there's an opportunity to change the creative, maybe change the person on the billboard to make it align what's happening, in the pop culture moment, it makes a difference. So it's a little hard to answer, but I think it depends the length of your campaign, on how often you should really change the frequency of changing your billboard.
Right. The answer that we have come to expect from attorneys.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna do marketing too, but it is true. It does depend. And yeah, we've seen it all over the place. Some people have great success with the same message, and others that like to change it up. I personally love using out of home to make a big announcement, like a new program or something that you really want the community to know. But I also love to use it for branded messages as well. So
Yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
with it. Yeah. Well, I was like, how are we going to talk a full half an hour about out of home media?
It's
But this has
easy.
been
It's
such a great
easy.
conversation, and I just really appreciate your time. Is anything else that we haven't touched on you think that people would like to know?
Remind everybody that the power of out of home and people and capturing attention exactly where and when, I think is a really powerful thing for out of home, right? It's positioned in the heart of where people live, work, and play, from local neighborhoods to major urban centers to busy transit routes. Out of home is just truly unskippable and consistently reaches a diverse audience. And then to remember, you can't opt out of these ads, right? There's no internet connection that you need. So again, it makes it unskippable and omnipresent to really drive outcomes for brands.
Great. Well, thank you again, Christine. I've learned so much
Yes.
from you. It's been such a great conversation, and I think people are just going to love learning as well and listening to this podcast.
Oh, love it. And thank you again for having me today.